Two neighbors, same street, same mortgage, same city. They both started their careers at 25, earning $52,000 a year. They both drove used cars. They both made their own coffee. They both worked hard, paid their bills, and did everything they were told was responsible. By 45, one of them had $340,000 invested, no consumer debt, and was seriously considering retiring early. The other had $12,000 in savings, $34,000 in credit card debt, and was praying their job would not disappear. Same starting line, same income, same neighborhood, two completely different financial realities. And if you asked the second person what happened, they would probably say they just got unlucky. A few bad years, the economy, life. But luck had almost nothing to do with it. This is not about how much money you make. It is about which level of wealth you are operating at, and whether you even know it. Most people think wealth is a number, a salary, a bank balance, a net worth figure. It is not. Wealth is a system. And like any system, it has levels. Depending on which level you are at, the rules you need to follow are completely different. The problem is, nobody gives you the map. So people end up applying level 1 thinking to a level 3 problem and wondering why nothing changes. Today, I am going to show you the 5 levels of wealth. What each level actually feels like from the inside. What keeps people trapped there. And the one shift that moves you forward. By the end of this, you will know exactly where you are and what needs to change. Let us start at the bottom. Level 1. Financial chaos. Level 1 is not just being broke. It is the feeling of not knowing. You do not know how much you spent last month. You do not know your exact account balance without checking. You do not know what happens if your car breaks down next week. You just deal with problems as they come. That is financial chaos. And the defining characteristic is not low income. It is zero visibility. Someone at level 1 might earn $4,000 a month and spend $4,200 every month. And they do not even notice because it happens through small invisible transactions, subscriptions, convenience spending, food delivery, impulse purchases. The difference quietly goes onto a credit card. The minimum payment gets made. The cycle continues, and over time, that cycle becomes devastating. Not because of the $200, because of the compounding interest attached to it. That small monthly gap quietly steals years of freedom from your future. What most people miss about level 1 is that it is not a discipline problem. It is an information problem. People at level 1 are flying blind. The shift out of level 1 is clarity. You need to know exactly what comes in, what goes out, and where the gap is. Because once you truly see the numbers, you cannot unsee them. And psychologically, that changes everything. Level 2, financial stability. Level 2 looks fine from the outside. The bills get paid. There is no overdraft. There is some money in savings. Everything feels functional. And honestly, reaching level 2 already puts someone ahead of a huge percentage of people. But level 2 has a hidden trap: stability without progress. The person at level 2 has stopped losing, but they are not building. And over long periods of time, not building is simply a slower form of losing. This is where lifestyle inflation quietly begins. Income goes up, the apartment upgrades, the car gets newer, the holidays become slightly more expensive, the spending expands with earnings, and the gap between income and spending stays flat, or shrinks. The psychological trap here is arrival fallacy. You finally feel stable, and your brain registers that feeling as success, which makes it incredibly difficult to push further, because pushing further means accepting uncertainty again, risk again, discomfort again. And this is why so many people stay stuck at level 2 for decades. The shift out of level 2 is making your money move, not dramatically, not recklessly, but automatically. Even $200 invested every month changes the trajectory completely over 20 or 30 years. The mechanism has to be built, because wealth is usually not built through intensity. It is built through consistency. Level 3, financial awareness. Level 3 is where the real education begins. People at this level understand the basics. They are investing, they have emergency savings, they know what an index fund is, they probably follow finance content online, they have goals, and they are actively trying to improve. But Level 3 has one of the most underrated traps in personal finance, the illusion of optimization. This is the person spending 6 months researching the perfect portfolio allocation while their income has not changed in 3 years. They debate investment percentages. They compare ETFs, they track spreadsheets, they optimize endlessly. But they never ask for a raise. They never build a second income stream. They never increase the size of the engine. And that is the trap. At Level 3, the biggest gains no longer come from managing money slightly better. They come from generating more of it. A 1% portfolio improvement might be worth a few $1,000s over a decade. One salary negotiation could be worth hundreds of thousands. And what makes this trap dangerous is that it feels productive. Reading finance books feels productive. Tweaking allocations feels productive. Watching investing videos feels productive. And some of it absolutely is productive. But it can also become a sophisticated form of procrastination. Because growing income is uncomfortable. Negotiating is uncomfortable. Starting something new is uncomfortable. The shift out of Level 3 is changing the question. Stop asking, how do I manage this better? And start asking, how do I earn more? That question changes everything. Level 4, financial independence. Level 4 is where the language changes. You stop talking about saving money and start talking about cash flow. You stop relying entirely on your job. You understand the difference between assets and possessions. Financial independence is simple. It is the point where your investments can cover your living expenses. That is it. The commonly used benchmark is the 4% rule. If your investments can safely support 4% withdrawals annually, you are financially independent. For someone spending $60,000 a year, that means roughly $1.5 million invested, not in net worth, in investments. And this is where compounding becomes life-changing. Someone investing $1,000 a month, starting at 25, can potentially reach that number more than a decade earlier than someone who starts at 35. That difference is not just money, it is freedom, options, time, and most people massively underestimate how valuable time freedom actually is until they experience the lack of it. But Level 4 has its own trap. Fear. People spend years building wealth, then become terrified of losing it. They stop taking intelligent risks. They stop investing in themselves. They protect the number instead of continuing to grow. This is loss aversion at its strongest. And the irony is brutal. The closer people get to freedom, the more scared they become of losing it. Knowing this trap exists does not make you immune to it, but it helps you recognize it. Level 5, financial legacy. Level 5 is not really about money anymore. At this level, money becomes a tool. The focus shifts toward impact, toward building something that lasts. This is where people think about estate planning, teaching the next generation, charitable structures, long-term legacy. But Level 5 is not only for people with $10 million, it is a mindset. It is asking, am I building this only for me? Or am I building something that outlasts me? That question changes every financial decision. It changes your time horizon, it changes your priorities, and it changes what wealth actually means. Because people who reach Level 5 rarely say the money was the point. They say the freedom was the point. The discipline was the point. The ability to act on what mattered to them, that was the point. The money simply made it possible. So what does all of this mean for you? Most people watching personal finance content are at Level 2 or Level 3. They have stopped the chaos. They have some structure. And now they are looking for the next thing, the strategy, the shortcut, the acceleration. But shortcuts only work when you know which level you are trying to leave. Because the move that gets you from Level 1 to Level 2 can hurt you if you are trying to move from Level 3 to Level 4. At Level 1, you need simplicity. At level 2, you need automation. At level 3, you need scale. At level 4, you need patience. At level 5, you need intention. And every level has its own enemy. At level 1, the enemy is invisibility. At level 2, the enemy is comfort. At level 3, the enemy is the illusion of progress. At level 4, the enemy is fear. At level 5, the enemy is ego. Knowing your level means knowing your enemy. Remember those two neighbors from the beginning? Same street, same salary, same starting line. 20 years later, one of them is thinking about retiring early. The other is drowning in debt. What happened? The first person got uncomfortable with stability. They automated investments before they could justify spending the money. They increased their income. They built level 3 habits early. The second person reached stability and stopped moving. The income increased, the spending increased, the gap stayed the same. And the compounding clock kept running against them. One made a decision at 28 that compounded for 17 years. The other made no decision at all, which is itself a decision. The most dangerous financial position is not debt. It is not low income. It is not even bad investments. The most dangerous financial position is knowing just enough to feel safe while standing completely still. So the question is not where you want to be. The question is, which level are you actually at right now? Because the gap between those two answers is where your next decade is hiding.